Hey there, you're listening to the Evolving Together podcast, the podcast for navigating all things midlife with honesty, humor, and heart. I am your host, Heidi Sexton, and today's topic is something that I am fairly certain you are going to relate to, or you know someone who is going through this. So, my question for you: do you suddenly feel like a switch has been flipped and your body and mind have morphed into someone you don't recognize? Perimenopause, menopause, and midlife in general, men, you go through midlife too, is a shakeup of astronomical proportions of your body, mind, and emotions, similar to when you were a teenager. You ever think about that? If you can remember that far back, at times it was most likely a nightmare that felt like it would never end. But now in midlife, the ground that you once stood firmly on, the things that worked in the past to feel good, look good, maintain weight, and even function like a normal human being, has just fallen away, and you're left hanging, feeling very isolated at times. I see this time of perimenopause as the shakeup and menopause as the crash course in letting go, both requiring tremendous self compassion. First of all, what is self compassion and self love? We hear a lot about that. But how do we find that self compassion and self love and self care, whatever you want to call it, and not completely lose your mind trying all sorts of things? How can we find relief, but also come out more secure and more stable, stronger on the other side of all this? Surprisingly, it starts in one place, and that's with you. It all comes back to self-care and the love and compassion that we show ourselves. Yeah, even your insomnia, it's all connected. I'm not talking about bubble baths and pedicures, although those are lovely too. They are not going to fix your hot flashes. So to help us get through these times, I have my friend Jackie Castro-Cooper here to talk about why this is happening, other than the obvious that you're in perimenopause or menopause or having a midlife crisis. Today, we're going to cover steps to take to start feeling better right now and not in 6 to 8 years after all of this has passed on its own. Because seriously, who has time to wait to feel good again? So, Jackie, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of an overview of who you are for those who don't know you.
All right. I am Jackie Castro-Cooper, and I am the world's best Latin dancer. Woo! We're going to put that
That's
Latin music on at the end. So I am Jackie
love it.
Castro-Cooper. I am a holistic alternative physical therapist, one of the first in the country. I specialize in John F. Barnes myofascial release. I do intraoral TMJ. And I also do women's and men's health by doing internal pelvic work. I do emotional freedom technique, so that's tapping. I took a course with Dr. Dawson Church, who wrote the EFT manual. This is it right here. I love him. And we do that for my patients who have severe anxiety and pain, because most of my patients are chronic pain and lots of other issues like the gut and brain issue. I'm also a registered yoga teacher. I did 10 months of training with River Rock Yoga, and it was really amazing. And what else did I do? I love yoga. I love sharing it with everybody. I've been doing yoga since I was in 11th grade. And I love meditation too. And recently I started doing some more exploration about the benefits of forest bathing. So that's a little bit about me.
I love it. I love the term forest bathing makes me want to just be out barefoot in the woods somewhere. I grew up outside. I never wore shoes until it got really cold, and I'm from New York, so you know how cold it gets up in New. We're both New York transplants.
Yes, absolutely.
We're nearly native, right? So one of the things that I thought was really cool that you had in your book.
The Power of Self-Care, Self-Love, a physical therapist guide to evolving into your higher self.
You described the different stages of life as a stanza. And that makes me think of a song, which is what, songs are made up of stanzas.
Mm-hmm.
And, every song has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And each part is so unique, yet essential for the complete effect of the song. And I love that. And I think everybody listening is in some type of stanza, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
midlife, or I have some listeners that are actually in their 20s and 30s. So that's a whole other stanza.
Yeah. And there's breaks there. There's pauses. We forget
Mm,
that. Same as our life.
yeah, that's a good point.
When you used that word evolving in one of your presentations that you did one time, I just fell in love with you because I was like, oh my gosh, it's all about evolution. And women and men, we kind of get stuck. We think we're just one person, one
Yeah,
type of person at this time. We got to stay the same, and we don't. And that's part of what you talk about is with the midlife. And I love this beautiful topic of shaking it up. Shaking it up during midlife is exactly what you're doing. Heidi, you talk a lot about not staying stagnant. And it's like putting oil and mustard and balsamic vinegar, which, by the way, I didn't know that there was turmeric in old fashioned mustard. I never knew that till a couple of years ago. I'm like, where the heck have I been? But if you mix that all up, you make this beautiful concoction. And that's what midlife, that's what you talk about. That's what midlife is. It's a complete shakeup of everything.
absolutely. And I don't think that anyone is prepared for it because we don't talk about preparing for it because I guess maybe we think it's never going to happen until
Hmm.
it does. And you feel like
Hmm.
someone slapped you upside the head, knocked you over.
Hmm.
It's anyone that's going through it or has been through it knows that there's so many different levels to it. And every day sometimes feels like a new day. You feel like you're waking, what's going to happen today?
Right.
Where is this taking me? So, when we're in these stanzas, I think each one requires a different type of self-love and self-compassion. But in particular, the midlife stanza is unique as far as why we need that type of self-love. I think we get to that point where our bodies and our minds just say, "Uh, you know, this isn't working anymore."
Right.
Or, you
Hmm.
know,
I call that change part of the psychoneuroimmunology. I talk about that in my book on page 88 and 89. Our thoughts and emotions are not the same when we were 20 or 30 or maybe a little bit like 40. Our thoughts and emotions are completely different. Our ideas, our behavior, everything is different. So PNI or psychoneuroimmunology is actually moving towards. I was listening to someone talking, a scientist talking about what it's evolving into, and it's evolving into a new word called psychoneuroimmunological endocrinology, which basically says it's about your thoughts and emotions and your behavior. But when we're experiencing midlife, there's a confusion, or like we talked about, it's a shakeup. But what has to happen is you have to be still. That's why you and I love yoga and meditation and walking in the woods, because it forces you to remove your mind, body, and spirit from the stressors, from, what's hitting you upside the head. It's like, woo, woo, woo. You have to remove yourself. And with my patients, I learn a lot from them, and I've been treating specifically in this way for 20 years. And I graduated a little longer, but I didn't really realize that this world of being still was so vital for our psyche and for what I call focusing on the self care and self love. What is it that you need in this moment in your stanza in life? What is it? And a lot of people don't even know at this time. It's not just women. It's like you said, it's also men as well. So, yeah, that's psychoneuroimmunology, something to look up. It's kind of fun.
yeah, and it's interesting. So when I hear these big terms, I always go from the teacher brain because I used to teach, and I taught elementary and high school, and so to break it down, it's psycho, neurological, endocrinology, and immunology. So we got psycho meaning the brain function, neurological, nervous system, endocrinology, which is all of our hormones. It's
Hmm.
not just the estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, serotonin, oxytocin, the ones we hear about, but there's like a whole bevy of hormones that are
Hmm.
all connected. And then the immunology, which is our immune system and how we, fight off or let in certain diseases. And so what you said about how all that is shaken up and gets kind of reordered, it's also true then we have to adjust how we our functioning. So it's like we're being forced to function differently. So
Yes.
learning how to function with this new order or disorder, menopause, perimenopause, midlife, it feels like a lot of disorder. And it is, but it's a sort of reordering that's happening. And I think we can help our bodies through this reordering process
Mm-hmm.
through a lot of different a lot of different actions. And I
Yeah.
love in fact, this morning, this is really funny. So I was a little stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
I was prepared for our talk today, but my mom she's almost 82 and she's very self-sufficient, but she has early stage dementia. And so I have to keep an eye on her and check in on her. And then my husband had surgery. And so I was feeling exhausted. Like my
Woo!
my brain, yeah, I was
Oh
just
my
like, my brain just felt that it was just so much. And I had to, like help my husband take a shower because he just had this surgery and it's the shoulder thing. And anyway, so I thought, okay, I usually have like 2 cups of coffee. I have one in the morning and then I'll have one mid morning if I'm going to sit down and write. And I don't always have that, but I thought I don't have time for a nap and I don't think I really need a nap. So what I did is I got on my yoga mat and I did some just whatever my body felt like it needed. It wasn't anything intense. It was just some slow stretches on my back, a few downward dogs. I felt amazing
Oh my
after.
gosh.
And
Yes.
it was really maybe 15 minutes. I don't even know if
Mm-hmm.
it was that long. And I thought, I just proved what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah. And so let's talk about physics because I know your readers are going, well, I'm not going to do yoga. I'm not, but what is yoga? It's laying down on the floor for 20 minutes and breathing. That's really
Mm,
all it is. Just breathing. You're literally calming down the nervous system. You're getting out of that fight, flight, freeze response. A lot of people are using the terminology self-regulation. Whatever it is, you're slowing everything down. And how is that affecting you? It's because the breath literally moves your diaphragm down into your 25, 27 feet of intestines and then pushes your pelvic floor down as well just by one deep inhale. And then the exhale. So it's like you're doing an accordion when you're breathing in and breathing out. That's why yoga is so incredible, is because you are moving slowly and you are being in the present moment. What does that do as well? It is decreasing your cortisol and your adrenaline. That goes into the endocrine system. It calms down the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the adrenal glands, the amygdala, everything just calms down. That few minutes, I tell everybody, just do 1 minute. Just breathe for 1 minute on the floor. If you can't get on the floor, just take your time. But that literally changes your biochemistry like that. And that's what you did. And that's how simple it is for
yep.
everybody to do.
Yeah. I had to just unplug for a minute because there was just so much going on. And plus regular life stuff. I had like an hour conversation with my son who's living in the Canary Islands. He's coming home soon and he's having all these dilemmas and we're trying to figure things out. And so I was just, I have nothing left to give. And it was
Yeah.
only 11 o'clock in the morning. So
Wow.
but I unplugged, I stopped. And when I laid down on the mat, I thought, I haven't really been breathing this morning, so I just slowly was taking those deep breaths. And I love the visual that you gave of how you're pushing down the intestines. And it's an internal massage. No wonder breathing feels, that deep intentional breathing feels so good. And then the exhale for me is like the gold.
Yeah.
That's, that long, slow exhale. And I just listened to my body.
And you probably prevented a little cold or something from coming on because when you are massaging your 25 feet of intestines, the mucosa of your 25 feet of intestines, that little lining, mucosal lining, that's where your immune system is actually housed. So that's the whole gut and brain connection. Your thoughts dictate what's happening in your gut. But then if you can breathe slowly, you can manipulate or move the cortisol and adrenaline out. And what are you doing there? You're decreasing inflammation. So that's beautiful what you did today.
It's amazing, and, years ago, I never would have done that. I would have just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I think now I have that self-compassion, it's like, "Okay, just stop for a second. Nothing is gonna happen in those 15 minutes," and here's the other funny thing, you're gonna love this. So when I was getting ready to go do a little yoga session before I took a shower, I said to my mom, I said, "I'm going for my active self time."
Woo! Active self-time,
My
AST,
A
baby. AST.
AST, AST, and she had just finished reading your book, and she sorta remembered a little bit about it. She loves reading, but then she doesn't always remember what she read, as a lot
Uh-huh.
of us do, but so, I said, "Well, you remember that book that had the flowers on the front, and you just couldn't put it down, and you absolutely loved it?" I said, "That active self-time." I said, "I'm gonna go do that right now." So she understood that I was stepping away, and it was for
Mhm.
myself, and it was just, it was great. So I just had to share that because that is something that I learned over the years, and I so many times I hear people say, "Oh, I know that," but knowing isn't doing.
Right.
You can know everything.
Yeah.
Well, not everything, but you can know a lot of things, but unless you're doing it, it's not
A
gonna help.
and that's why the healthcare world is changing a little bit. I think that all of the healthcare practitioners we're starting to take care of ourselves a little bit more. And so whoever your listeners healthcare practitioner is, you need to check on them. Are they practicing what they're preaching? Are they taking care of themselves? What are their lifestyle? Because you want a healthy person that you can ask questions about. And that's what I tell my patients. I said, if you love your doctor, your NP, your physician's assistant, anybody, please ask them questions because it'll help them as well as the both of us, healthcare practitioners and patients. We treat each other all the time. I've learned so much from my patients. But back to active self time, it was started. I wrote it in the book. We raised 3 children. And I was so stressed out. I wasn't able to pass my physical therapy exam. And so I was really stressed out. And it was a Saturday morning. My husband was here. And I literally just put my sneakers on and I said, I'm leaving the house for some active self time. And I didn't even wait for my kids or my son or my husband to say, what is that? I just left the house and came back 45 minutes later because my head was exploding. I couldn't take it anymore. And I just walked and came back and I felt so much better. So yes, laying down on the floor, doing some breathing, or sitting and doing some breathing for just a minute or 5 minutes, but bolting out of your house or your office and just literally leaving for 5 minutes, that again takes you out of fight, flight, freeze, and it brings back that beautiful breath and that awareness to the present moment. And it also, let's be honest, it gives ourselves permission to feel. Oh my gosh, I'm so angry. I'm so afraid. What am I doing? I'm so confused. It gives you time to really feel that because a lot of people want to ignore it. They don't want to go. They're like, no, I don't want to be angry right now. I got to calm myself down. It's like, wait a minute. You can calm yourself down after you feel the anger. At
100%, yeah.
After you
Feel it.
cry, go ahead and
Yeah.
cry. I love to cry. I tell my patients, I cry every day. They're like, you do? You seem so happy. I'm like, I'm happy because I cry every day.
Crying is my favorite pastime, and one of my other
Yeah.
episodes, I talked about that. I'm like, I love it is one of the best releases, and it's so underused,
Yeah.
and it's underrated, and, it's not just crying is not just for women, it's for men too,
Yes.
and I think crying is one of the most amazing tools. A couple years ago, my sister-in-law was very, very sick, and she ended up passing away from a very aggressive and, um, rare cancer,
Mm.
and it was a horrible, horrible time in our lives, and I remember there was a moment where I could feel the stress rising up in my body to a point where I really felt like I was just going to burst, and I couldn't figure out what it was,
Mm.
and I don't know how I figured this out, but I had not cried for a few days because I was crying all the time. I was crying morning, night, from the time she was diagnosed until, past her passing. I cried every day practically, and I had this moment where I wasn't crying for a few days, and I thought, "Holy crap, I need to cry. I need this is all it was. It was building up. I was having such grief and stress and fear and anxiety and all the stuff, and I just needed to cry and get it out." And
Yeah.
I did, and I felt so much better. I was still devastated and grieving, but I did not feel like my head was literally gonna pop off my body.
Yeah.
So, big fan of crying.
I'm
Um,
I'm glad
so
that you brought up grief
mm,
because that's one of the things that my patients hold on to in the chest area, in the breast area. The breasts are, the caring for others and grief. So I'm grateful for you bringing that up because, first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss, but what you experienced was a tremendous amount of healing that you're going to share with all of your listeners forever. Grief is something that has to be addressed because it's a very low vibrational frequency. For your listeners, the biology of belief is really fantastic. It's Bruce Lipton, and it's just such a powerful book. But also the other book, I don't have it here. No, I do actually. The Power versus Force. This
yeah.
so this one, and you know him, Dr. David Hawkins. He did the map of consciousness. So grief is at the bottom. Shame, guilt, grief, anger, frustration, fear, all lower vibrational frequencies, and their patterns are very slow and wide, right? It's kind of like ultrasound. It's got like slow waves, but grief, we can't stay there. And that's what crying does. Crying and
Mhm.
screaming, it literally lifts us out of grief into anger, and then it goes into fear, and then it can come up to peace. And that's how fast it is when you cry. So thank you for bringing grief up.
Yeah, I remember I saw that in your book, and I know that I've read and learned a little bit about the different vibrations of different emotions and things, and one of the things that surprised me was that apathy was almost at the rock bottom
Mm,
along with grief. They're, like,
mhm.
really low, and the anger is actually a higher vibration than the other one, like grief and
Yeah.
apathy. I was so surprised, and I guess that's also because anger is very active, although grieving is too, but it's like that low, slow, and it's not that we can avoid everything like that. I mean, we're all going to have moments where we grieve, and it's not like we can always stay at a higher vibration, but yeah, crying is a fantastic way to kind of it's another way to pause, honestly. You talked about this proverb that, everyone has a house with 4 rooms,
Mhm.
and I would love for you to share a little bit about this because
Yes.
when when I yeah, it's well, it's interesting, when I was reading that, I thought, "That is so funny," because when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I suffered pretty significant depression. I didn't know I had depression at the time. I had it my whole life up until about 21, 22, and I was always trying to sort through things and try to pull the chaos together in my brain, and again, I did not know I was depressed. I had no idea. I just thought this was how people function. So
Mhm.
I would often write in my journals a plan of how I was gonna get better, how I was gonna function better, and so I would make this list of rituals. I'd say, "Okay, every day I'm going to, do this kinda exercise, and I'm gonna pray this long or meditate, and I'm gonna read this or that, and I'm gonna do that," and I would write these things down so that I could make sense of so that I could just function better. And when I
Wow.
read the 4 rooms, I'm like, "Wow, that is really cool." And I'd have to go back, well, I think I've already burned those journals, but I just thought it was so cool because it's like committing to yourself to tend to each of those 4 rooms every
Mhm.
day is so simple.
Yeah.
It just takes that commitment to yourself. So if you don't mind just kind of telling us a little bit about the 4 rooms.
Yes, and that's actually my the reason why I created the Power of Self-Care Self-Love Journal workbook because it takes you through that um for 7 days. It repeats it, and then it has a different quote on the very top, and then it asks you a question after 7 days, and then it does something different every 15 days and something different every 40 days. It's 365 days. But
Oh, I love that. I love
Yes,
that.
it's so awesome. I'm actually doing it again. So I'm doing my own journal workbook again because the first time I did it, it took me, I wanted to have the freedom to pick it up when I wanted to and not. This time I'm being so strict. I'm doing it every single day and I am blown away because the quotes are very powerful because it took me a year and a half with my editor and another person helping me to really hone down on what quote is actually going to help everybody. But the proverb is this: you are a house with four rooms: the physical, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual. So that spells out pies. And we all love pie. So you'll never forget it. So, what is it? How do you do it every day? The first one is the physical. So, what I tell everybody is just move your body. If you're in severe chronic pain and you can barely get out of bed, just get out and just walk around the house just for 60 seconds and breathe. That's just a simple thing. Just moving your body, giving your body a signal that it needs to use over 300 joints in our body, just moving and breathing for 60 seconds. But if you have no pain, see if you can get out of the house in the morning before 9 a.m. We need 20 minutes of sun. That's all women and men, of course. But women, we start to go after midlife, less estrogen, less vitamin D. So we really need to get that sun and breathing. So that's the simplicity of the physical. But if you are like me and you love to dance, just put on your dance music while you're making breakfast or dinner. Try to move your body to joy. Joy is the secret of the physical room. You really want to be able to do AST, active self time. Get out and do something fun or stay in the house. Zumba, anything that's going to get you out of the house, kayaking, whatever it is. And a lot of people do love the gym or spinning. So, all that. The second room is I.
Can I just ask you or just touch
Yeah.
base on something when you said the physical? So I try to encourage my mom to get outside in the morning for that morning sun. That also helps with sleep at night, right? That
Absolutely. Our circadian rhythms are destroyed because we're indoors working all the time. And so the melatonin can't be produced the way it used to be when we didn't have electricity. So now as humans we're trying to evolve into this new way of living indoors, electronic devices all the time, whether we're on their phone, computer, and it's really tough for our melatonin to be created.
yeah, I just wanted to bring that in because sleep quality is one of the biggest issues I think with midlife. It's like
Yeah.
all those cycles get disrupted so easily.
And I do recommend napping. So, for women, it will prevent heart attacks by about 31 or 35%. For men, it'll prevent heart attacks by about 61%.
Wow.
So, napping is extremely powerful. Everybody says, I don't want to nap. I don't even know where to nap. I just tell everybody if you're at your computer, at your break, whatever that is, whether it's 20 minutes or an hour, fold your hands over and put your head down in front of your computer because a lot of people are just locked into working all the time. Just take 5 minutes and close your eyes and rest your head on your hands, or remove yourself and go to your car and or go to another room where you're working and just lay down for 20 minutes. It would be wonderful to do that, but napping is extremely powerful for, again, to give yourself a little bit of energy. Caffeine does not help. It literally does the opposite. So if you're drinking caffeine in the afternoon, just know that you're doing it out of habit, but it's not helping you get extra energy. That the napping will do that.
Right. I'm a big fan of cat naps. I used to go out into my car before I became an elementary teacher. I was an assistant and I was studying to be a teacher and I would be exhausted and I'd either go to my car to study or to sleep. Even
Excellent.
even when it was like 90 degrees out, I was so hot, but I did not care, but it was what I needed to reset and restore, and I just think it's also an underused tool, so that's a form of instead of, active self-time, that would be inactive self-time, which is the pause, like we were talking earlier, taking that pause, so for the physical.
And since we're in the physical room still, walking while you're doing it, take having your meetings. If you're on the phone, please get out of your office, out of your home, wherever you are, and walk outside in the middle of the day. Here in the South, it's extremely hot to do that, but just do it for 3 minutes if you can, or longer if possible. You do need to get that outdoor break. And that includes the physical movement of the physical room. So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Okay, what's next?
The next one room is the intellectual. Now remember, these rooms, there's four: physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. These rooms have to be opened and aired every single day. So whether it's 60 seconds, go out in the morning, or whether it's whatever, you have to open them out every day. So the intellectual is read something that's interesting or listen to Heidi's beautiful podcast
Right?
to learn something new, and it's so easy now to do that. So YouTube, people are loving YouTube, Instagram. I'm not really into the social media thing to learn, but social media does give you a little glimpse of, oh, that's an interesting person. Let me look that person up and listen to that Instagram 10-second thing and go, okay, but later on, look that person up. But yeah, YouTube, again, your podcast is really quite profound. So learn anything. And I'm going to hit with the word neuroplasticity. If we're not learning something new, knitting. I want to do a knitting get together very, very soon. And why is
Mm,
that? Because guess what they're saying? If you do old lady things, you can prevent memory loss and live longer.
I
What are
love
lady
it.
things? It's reading, it's petting your animal, it's knitting, it's cooking, it's doing a little bit of like, oh, let me meet someone for tea. So doing old lady things, being with children, being with older people, whatever that is. So that's the intellectual. Learn one or two things every single day. That's you. A language, piano, that's a little harder, but I highly recommend it. The third room is the emotional room, and nobody really wants to go in there. And you and I talked about that because of the map of consciousness from the book Power versus Force. We don't want to really feel bad. So everybody wants to avoid crying or screaming. Sometimes I'll tell my patients, on your way home, go ahead and roll up the windows and scream. And they're like, are you crazy? I'm like, you are going to feel fantastic, especially if you've got young kids or teenagers in the house. If you don't scream before you get before you get to the house, you're going to be in trouble. So that's the emotional room. But the emotional room can also be journaling, which is highly, highly recommended. Again, that's why I created my work journal, but any journal that you want to write, a lot of my patients refuse to journal. So I tell them, write something that you're feeling. Anything. You could be feeling joy or telling a story, write it down, burn it, or throw it away. But you have to energetically move this being stuck feeling in your body, that your emotions are going to explode if you don't express it. I mean, you had mentioned apathy, right?
Mhm. Right.
Something that we don't even realize that we're doing. And journaling literally can decrease asthma. That's how powerful journaling is. And so, again, if you don't want to journal, just go ahead and write something down and then throw it out. But the cool thing about journaling and going into the emotional room is that you're going to literally heal your body from physical pain.
I love journaling, and I actually have recommended to my former students, and I did a one of my earlier podcasts, I also suggested it's not as powerful as taking that pen to paper or typing it out, but you can also do voice to texting or like the voice recordings where you can just kind of blah, get it all out,
Mhm.
and you listen to it again, you can delete it, but there's something in that process of getting it out and going back over it. But again, it's not quite as powerful as that pen or pencil to paper or the workbook like you're talking about. So, yeah, really powerful stuff. So, okay, next room or final room.
Yes, the final room is the spiritual room. And spirituality is so different for so many people, but basically, it's getting in touch with your higher self, with Heidi. Who is Heidi? What does Heidi want? What does she need? What does she love? What brings her joy? So, the spiritual room is sitting down and literally, I like to write down the list. I say, what are 20 things that make me happy? And it's like, oh my God, because we talked about midlife being so confusing, and it's
Mhm.
like you're getting hit over the head with like, what? Who am I? What's happening? Who are you that I'm living with? What's going on? And so, writing 20 things in the spiritual room that bring you happiness, or the length of happiness is joy. Brother David, um, Rice, I think is his name. I quote him in the book. He says, happiness, the lingering of happiness is how you can enter joy, the practice of joy. And no one, Heidi, you and I know this so well, no one can bring you joy but yourself. That's what I learned from my mother and my grandmother. The only person who creates joy is you. Don't expect it from your husband or your kids.
Yep.
Maybe your dog and your cat once in a while.
I know, right? They'll give you lots of love no matter what, as long as you're feeding them.
And again, spirituality can also be in the form of worship, having a faith that you believe in. Of course, that's spirituality. But for me, it's that spirit within me, the Holy Spirit, the divinity, reminding yourself that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We can't forget that we are divine. So connecting with that every day by sitting in meditation. So, what's the difference between meditation and prayer? Meditation is sitting and listening. Prayer is speaking. So, speaking to God, universe, divine loving light, consciousness, self. That is the difference. Some people do them together. I love to do it. I love to pray and meditate. It's so beautiful. Centering prayer is what Christianity calls it. The Muslims and the Hindus can call it different things, meditation. But it's really important to just sit still and know that I am God, universe, divine, loving light, consciousness, whatever you feel is comfortable for you for your spirituality.
Right.
Every day, 4 rooms, physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and they spell out pies because we love pie.
I love pie. I love it. I think it's so important, like, you bring up that you have to visit those rooms every day. It's not you can't neglect one and expect the others to fill in because they're separate. They're
Mhm.
under the same roof, but they're still separate rooms that need to be cleaned out and taken care of. So that's I love it.
And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, is because I deal with so many women and men that overwork. And they're addicted to that stress. If I'm not doing this, this, and this every single day, and I'm like, it's okay, go ahead and do this, this, and this, but be a CEO and work out in the morning, go for a walk, get your massage in, all before 9 a.m. before you start your day. Plan your meals. Be a woman or a man of business. That means take care of yourself first. Or guess what? You're going to break down and create illness, which doesn't need to happen. If you care and love yourself.
Yes, 100%. And it takes time to learn that. I want to touch a little bit on the value of having a community in a tribe and also the value of having spousal support. I call it, I don't know what else to call it, but that's really what it is, whether you're married or you're in a long term partnership. But the importance of having that network of people around you that support you through this time and what does that look like and how having that makes our lives more full, but also we can figure things out a little bit easier. We're not meant to go through life alone. We're meant to, be there for each other. If you don't mind sticking around, I'd like to go into those a little bit deeper for some bonus episodes or maybe another full episode. I'm not really sure at this point, but
Huh.
before I do that, I do want to ask you what's next? What are you up to these days, Jackie? I mean, your book came out in 2020,
Yes.
which for some reason I thought it's so weird because sometimes I'm like, oh, that just came out. Or I'm like, oh, that's been out for a long time. And then I have no concept of time, apparently.
No, after COVID, nobody even knows what the heck time is.
I know, I know. So,
I have
so
no
what?
idea.
So your book came out in 2020, and then you followed up with a workbook.
Mhm.
And then when did the workbook come out? That was
Yeah, that was a year and a half later.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was thinking it was even more recent. So see, I really am lost. But so what so what else what are you working on right now and what's happening? I know you do retreats and stuff like that.
Yes, I've been doing retreats since 2019. I really love them because they create the community. Some people have asked me to do couples retreats, and I might visit that in the future. because I've been blessed to be married for now, it's gonna be 37 years now, and it's been not been easy, baby.
Wow, wow. So, but you hung in there, and that's what I wanna talk about in the next episode because I think you've got a lot of wisdom to share there.
Thank you.
So
But to get in
yeah.
touch with me, it would be the newsletter, Jackie's Community. I know you'll put that link up. I will be doing private retreats at my house. I have 3.5 acres because I want to start really getting a little bit more intimate. I don't mind doing large retreats or going to large events and speaking, but there's something about smaller retreats. And in my home, I have a lot of trees. And so
Mhm.
I've done a couple already where we bring the hammocks out and we do meditations in the hammocks after we do yoga and after we do a little walk in the forest. And I really love that. And I love afternoon tea. That's my
Nice.
thing. I love afternoon tea, just sitting down and being with women, especially, but men, of course, are invited. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing more private retreats. I do love my Women's Health Forum. I've been doing that since 2017. And that's where we invite all the people in the community to come in and listen to healthcare practitioners who are on the cutting edge, who are really looking at what's going on out there, what's happening with this. What's going on with GLP-1s? What's going on with psychoneuroimmunology, endocrinology? All that stuff. Like, what do I need to know that's simple and easy that I really don't get a lot of information about? And again, social media is great, but if you can stand in front of a healthcare practitioner live and ask them the questions or afterwards ask them the questions. We just did one in New Orleans this year. Very, very powerful. We did it at the New Orleans, chamber event. It's just great to just share information with
It's
everybody.
powerful. I think that's the first time I ever saw you was at one of the forums. Now that it was in an Ocean Springs library or something
Yes.
like that, and it was you, and it was a panel of, I think Betty Sue was there, Dr. Liana,
Yeah, and
and Ophelia, yeah. I think that's the first time I thought, "This is cool. I love this." It was packed. Do you ever offer those if somebody's in a different state where they could watch live, or is this just only in person on the Gulf Coast?
it's hard because you have to hire somebody to videotape everything. One time we did do a Facebook Live and we recorded it and it was live so people could come in. So we might, yeah, you have to remind me. I got to do that.
Well, it's hard because, I mean, so many people can't get out for one reason or another. I know me taking care of my mom, I can leave, but it's like I have to kinda coordinate and things like that, and
Yeah.
then there's people that live, across the country that would love to be, a fly on the wall, but okay, wonderful, so thank you so much for your time. If you don't mind sticking around, we're gonna continue the conversation on spousal support and what it means to have a tribe and to have a community. I hope you listeners will come back and listen to the bonus. I'm not sure if it will be in Patreon or I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. It's a mystery. You gotta,
It's
you
a
gotta.
mystery. You just take it one little minute at a time and
That's right.
dance the way out.
That's right. You got to stick around for the secret. All right. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you, my darling.
And now for the disclaimer. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as professional advice. The views expressed are our own and should not be taken as medical, legal, or financial guidance. Always consult a qualified professional regarding your specific situation. By listening, you agree that we are not liable for any actions taken based on this content.